So there's a bunch of clickbait articles going around the interwebs talking about how Sony's gonna publish games for the Nintendo Switch. Obviously that sounds like an interesting headline, and since it's technically true, of course websites are gonna try and mislead people into clicking their articles and probably YouTube videos soon enough, if not already. But clicking any of these articles might redirect you to a website that shows an embarrassing adult entertainment movie of myself from when I was younger and really needed the money. So besides me trying to divert you from seeing those boring videos of me that you probably don't even want to watch anyway, let me tell you why Sony bringing games to the Nintendo Switch really isn't that big a deal. Alright, so yes, Sony Music is gonna publish games on the PC and Nintendo Switch, but calm down, because we're not gonna see games like Little Big Planet or Uncharted on anything not named PlayStation anytime remotely soon, and hopefully ever. However, I do admit that it is interesting for Sony Music under the label Unties to be publishing games for the Nintendo Switch. But it's not Sony Interactive that's doing this, it's Sony Music, which is ultimately under the same Sony umbrella, but it'd be like Poison Ivy's neutral cousin collaborating with Bruce Wayne on a new gadget that'll filter pollution from the planet and restore the ozone layer. So despite Sony and Nintendo being competition, this move will be beneficial to both parties involved as well as the indie devs and even the fans, so what's the harm? I mean, let's not forget about the time when Nintendo published a Microsoft game for a Nintendo platform with Diddy Kong Racing on the Nintendo DS. Yeah, Microsoft didn't see the DS as competition since they've never had a handheld on the market, and it's not like Microsoft could have had Diddy Kong on the Xbox, but I'd still say that scenario was a little weirder and more deserving of attention since Microsoft actually made the game for Nintendo to publish on their platform. Well, Rare made it, but Microsoft owns Rare. So it'd be silly for Sony as an overall company to not publish games that'll generate guaranteed revenue. And like I said before, the Switch is competition for the PS4, but it's not really Sony's primary rival like the Xbox One, which may or may not be why Unties won't publish games on that particular device. The Switch is to the PS4 what Jim Halpert is to Dwight Schrute. Enemies capable of putting their differences aside for mutual gain, with the exception of crossplay for some reason. And the Xbox One is to the PS4 what Newman is to Seinfeld, bitter and direct enemies. So it's not out of the question for Sony to publish indie games on the PS4 as well as the Nintendo Switch if it'll ultimately end up making them more money. And with some due respect, the games that Unties are going to be publishing aren't anything that'll make people buy a Switch or a PS4. Don't get me wrong, Tiny Metal looks like an awesome substitute for Advance Wars since it seems like Nintendo would rather wipe their cute little asses with that particular series than make a new installment. But like most indies, the games Sony will be publishing are just games you'd buy on a whim while browsing the online shop, seeing as how they're inexpensive and right there in your face. A kid's not gonna say, Daddy, can you get me a Nintendo Switch? I want Merkava Avalanche and The Last Standard. Again though, I love indie games, but I honestly can't think of any indie exclusives that have ever moved consoles, with the exception of Cuphead making me really wish I had an Xbone. Good thing it's coming to Mac so I don't have to spend $300 for one game, as amazing as it was when I played it that one time. I'd say that Sony publishing these games on a Nintendo console is a smart thing to do, because a lot of people that had no interest in these games in the first place will probably buy them just for the sake of getting a Sony game on a Nintendo console. If nothing else, with all the new eyeballs on these relatively obscure games, a lot of people who are now aware of them thanks to the non-controversy will probably want to pick them up based on merit alone, which was kind of the whole point of Unties in the first place anyway, to give quality indie games a chance at life in an oversaturated market. And an ass-hair extra attention to your product certainly never hurt anybody. While Sony Music publishing indie games to the Switch is a good idea, and totally not a big enough deal to justify clicking on websites that will sometimes redirect you to a boring, waste-of-time adult film that happens to star myself, I wonder if anybody at Sony Interactive actually does care about this. Like, come on, Mom, those guys are my competition! They'd be stupid to care, but then again, they're anti-crossplay, so it's not out of the question that somebody over there is pedo. So there you have it. All the information on this matter you need in one video, so you don't have to click on any of these weird websites and view my adult film that was made a really long time ago when I was in a lot of debt. But what do you think of Sony Music putting games on a Nintendo console, though? Is it a bigger deal than I realize? What do you think of Tiny Metal? What do you think of Baby Metal, for that matter? Let me know down below, and I'll pin my favorite comment. FYI, if you did see a certain movie that'll remain nameless, just know that special effects were used to make my pee-pee look as small as it did. Thanks for watching. My name's Cameron, and I'll see you next time.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty. Thank you.